Well, guys, we got two gentlemen here that are very, very intelligent when it comes to the health of our bodies. This gentleman here is Dr. Bill McAnalley. He actually discovered the active ingredient in aloe vera back in the 80s and was able to find a way to bottle it and preserve it without changing the efficacy of it. And this gentleman here, Dr. John Hall, he has worked alongside Dr. Bill since, what would you guys say, 80-something?
Mm-hmm. 80-something.
80-something. And anyways, what we were going to talk about today was just a little bit about what Dr. Bill's been thinking about today. And we're just going to let him start talking, and we're going to ask some questions, see if we all can get a lot out of this. So, Dr. Bill, what you been doing today?
Well, today there's new science, appearing every day in the literature.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when I first started studying, I had to go to the library and go through the card catalog and order the articles. And now they're all right here at my fingertip on my kitchen table here.
Yeah.
And I can look at everything. I just finished this review of food ingredients on cancer, and 64 pages of abstracts.
Oh, wow.
It's exciting.
All right there at your fingertips.
Right.
Yeah, I remember we had a thing called a microfiche back when I was in
pretty,
school. And
that's hot stuff.
yeah, and you could see all kinds of articles if you blew it up and magnified it. That's cool. This is great.
Anyway, what's interesting is there are a lot of major medical centers that are starting to look at the things that foods can do, and they're looking at food supplements. Like they can induce non-coding RNAs. Like used to, we thought that DNA coded mainly for protein, and when they sequenced the human DNA, they are saying this sequence here, your DNA makes these proteins, this makes these proteins. Well, as it turned out, only about 20% of our DNA made proteins. We thought most of it did, or all of it. And now we're learning what does the other 80% do. They do some amazing things. And they're turned on, most of them are turned on by food. Like the microRNA, this study is done at the Kansas City VA Medical Center. And they're looking at amla, or umbilical officinalis, and it turns on a microRNA 375 that stops ovarian cancer.
Oh, wow.
And there are no cancer drugs that do this. I don't even know how to make one. And what's interesting, the microRNAs like this, they may do 20 to 30 different things, or even more. That same microRNA can affect several other conditions in your body. And they're turned on when you eat these foods, they cause your body to make those microRNAs.
And just for someone who might not know exactly what you're talking about, when you talk about the RNA, you're talking about basically the inside of our cell that tells our cell how it should operate properly.
Well, DNA codes for RNAs, like messenger RNAs, and then the message tells it. For a long time, we just thought, well, ribosomal RNA reads those messages and makes proteins.
Gotcha.
But some of these microRNAs are not coding for a protein. They actually, the RNA serves a purpose.
Oh, okay.
And like viruses, the virus takes over your cell, like one we're interested in right now, COVID-19. It takes over the cell and reproduces itself.
Right.
Well, I'm sure we'll find eventually a microRNA that stops it from being able to read and reproduce itself. And some people that get well real quick, they may have eaten the right food or have made those microRNAs that we hadn't discovered yet. We don't know why some people, they get the virus and it's gone.
Yeah, they won't even know they had it.
And it's probably due to some of these things that we haven't haven't worked out yet. You think, John?
Yeah, and you know, you mentioned that the medical schools and medical centers are starting to do these studies, study these foods. That wasn't happening very long ago, but why? Why are they having to do that, Bill?
Well,
Because drugs what?
Because drugs don't work.
They don't do that.
Drugs don't do it. Like, some of you probably heard me talk about the 1,200 plants that treat malaria around the world. And nearly all of these 1,200 had been looked at, but they couldn't find an active ingredient, so they went on. But medical missionaries and, you know, famous doctors retired and decided to work 5 years over here in this jungle. They see it work.
Mm-hmm.
They said, well, wait a minute, this worked. We got to go back and look at it. And what they're finding is that it's the ingredients in the plant, the food plant.
Like all of the things,
It's
not
all
just
ingredients.
one active ingredient.
And what they're finding is that this one ingredient that had a little effect, but the other 3 or 4 ingredients can have a big effect.
Right.
And this ingredient prevents the malaria from being able to develop immunity to its effect. And so we're going to have to stop thinking about one ingredient, one effect, because food has several ingredients that cause many positive effects.
So you could say those the previous researchers gave up due to not thinking outside of the box because they thought it had to be one thing. And then they ended up not finding that one thing. They just gave up on it, even though it worked.
That's right. And
Because there was evidence that it worked.
exactly.
And they went home and had supper and ate some food.
Yeah. It's amazing what that food does for us.
Oh,
isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah. Like bromine, which is used, is studied a lot in Australia. In fact, I've just got this article here where I think every medical center was involved in this in Australia. Because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 medical centers. I think that's all they have. I've counted them before.
Yeah.
But they've all been involved in studying. Oh, there's a few more.
Oh, wow. Those are the new ones they just recently.
Since I hadn't been there a few years.
Yeah.
Anyway, they're showing that it kills triple negative breast cancer.
Oh,
Which
wow.
right now, we don't have any drug that touches it. Like when people have breast cancer and then it goes away, a lot of times when it comes back, it's usually a triple negative, and the drugs that cause it to go away don't affect the triple negative.
So that
They
would
really
be,
don't have anything for it.
so that'd be considered probably the worst of them.
Yes, and this is amazing. And these foods don't have the toxicity that drugs have.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they actually modulate pathways, whereas drugs block a pathway or they stimulate a pathway.
Mm-hmm.
They either up or down, and these move it where it needs to be, and only food can do that.
Well, it's almost like it was designed that way, Bill.
Great designer.
That's right.
Yeah, and it's been shown to kill glioblastoma, which is a bad brain cancer. You
Yeah.
get it, you're gone.
Yeah.
And Japan does some real good work.
Mm-hmm.
They showed that chaga mushroom can stop colon cancer in the cell cycle, GM2 phase. It just stops it from reproducing. And that's done by food. We don't have drugs that'll do that.
Yeah, and the thing is we're designed to do that when that first cancer cell develops.
Right.
We don't want to wait till the tumor develops. It's easier to deal with one cell at a time. And so the food that we eat that does this, the body uses to do this. It's doing it on the cellular level with those individual cells. And the ideal is that we never know about it, you know.
And Taiwan has shown that it is effective against leukemia, the Taiwan Medical Centers.
And that's just one food.
But they're doing studies with tumors.
Yeah, they're
people who
all-
already have tumors.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that works then too.
I mean, think.
But ideally, you don't want to let that tumor.
Yeah, I mean,
develop.
think about that. If it would shows helping when you already have the problem, start eating the food now.
Yep.
Maybe you can prevent that from ever happening.
Yeah.
And
I
Korean,
mean, you don't know, but you gotta give your body the best chance you can.
the Korean medical centers have shown it's effective against colon cancer.
That's what
Yeah.
got both of my folks, both
Yeah.
of my parents.
Really?
Colin?
Yep.
They got my grandmother.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
My
So-
mom. Yep. My
No.
mom's mom.
Not many effective, cancer drugs. And so, anyway, I've been going through and looking at some of my favorite ingredients. And it's just amazing, the more than finding out about it and how they work, and they're not toxic.
Right.
Especially if you need to take these foods before you develop cancer. Just because you have a cancer cell doesn't mean you have cancer. It's when that cell grows out of control. So if you kill that cell the day that it's formed, you're not going to have it because
Well, that goes back to what you just mentioned with the COVID. The COVID attaches to our cell and makes a bad cell. And in some people's bodies are able to detect it quickly and get rid of it, where they may never even show a symptom. Where others who aren't as healthy or didn't eat the right food, maybe, like we're talking about here, they may not even survive it.
And I
Yep.
just looked at milk thistle, and what they use is they use milk thistle seed, although you can eat every part of the plant, the roots, the leaves. The leaves are kind of like lettuce. In fact, some people say some of the lettuce came from derivatives of that.
Mm.
And that long lettuce that you see in salads.
Mm-hmm.
And we have, it was brought over by the Europeans because they use the thistle over there for its medical benefits. But of course, they just figured that's old wives' still because it couldn't do all these things milk thistle was thought to do. But I just checked, and there's 689 cancer references in PubMed now.
Oh, wow.
On the milk thistle.
And cancer wasn't that common. I interrupted. I remember decades ago hearing about, back at the turn of the 20th century, this doctor was teaching at medical school, and some person came in with cancer, and he said, "Get around here, Grant. You'll probably never see this in your whole career. This guy has cancer."
Wow.
Well, they probably were missing a few, but they knew what cancer was.
Yeah.
I remember reading about John Adams. John Adams had a daughter who died of breast cancer. They did a mastectomy. I mean, so they've known about cancer a long time.
When was John Adams alive?
Well, in the late 1700s.
That's what I was gonna say. They've known about it.
He died on July the 4th, 1826.
Yeah.
The
How
50
long
years
ago?
after 50, and he and Thomas Jefferson both died the same day. 50 years to the day after 1776,
Guys.
July 4th.
Dr. Hall
Well,
knows all this stuff, and he never ceases to amaze
that
us.
doesn't do us any good, but the point is they knew about cancer a long time
It
ago.
did us a lot of good.
And the other thing is that fits in, I've always said that it's not like people think that civilization arose with the advent of the pharmaceutical industry, and people have been living a long time before
Yeah.
we had modern medicine, and we weren't having cancer like we are now. And they weren't exposed to a lot of things we are, but they also were eating good food.
Yeah.
Eating good food, and you get the feeling that maybe this all fits together. Maybe
Yeah.
they were getting the nutrients they needed, and they were nipping it in the bud.
Yeah.
And it was rare. It was relatively rare. It was very rare a long time ago. It isn't rare now.
Well, I put all these references together and I call it Core's Food Effects on Cancer. If any of you like it, we'll
Yeah.
make it available.
Yeah.
These are all PubMed articles, and you can get the whole article off of PubMed.
Yeah. That'd be great. And hey, guys, reach out to Dr. Bill. Him and Dr. Hall, they've, spent their professional lives researching and developing and this will be a whole nother video, but determining the efficacy of the raw ingredients they put in their products are what they say they are. Because there's so many phonies out there. There's even phonies in, I hate to say it, in pharmaceuticals even. You hear about that all the time from other countries and whatnot. So you know whenever it's not regulated hardly at all, like a food, that it can be something totally different than what it says on the bottle, and there's proof of that too. But we'll talk about that another time, and really reach out to Dr. Bill with any questions you have, or Dr. Hall, or myself. And thanks for tuning in. Till next time.
All right.